story begins back on with an album that I released in 2004. It was my first album, and it brought together two styles of music that I spent a lot of time pursuing, but sort of independently or separately. That would be the music of Django Reinhardt, the great jazz guitarist, and traditional music from Newfoundland, which comes from, I mean, there's a lot of French and Irish and English and even Portuguese influences. The first album, it was like bringing two separate styles of music that I really loved into one style. The second album we released in 2006, Crocus, was kind of like a refinement of that style. And then with Raindrops, the latest album, I wanted to take that style and continue to develop that, but also layer in a new sound, which comes from I guess you could say like the classical tradition, bringing in some contemporary compositional elements. Django's music today is known as Gypsy jazz or manouche music. And I was in Paris and I was just walking downtown and I went into this cafe. There was no music happening, so it was that kind of buzz in the air. And then I remember hearing the first strum of the guitar, and it was like my head snapped up. I was like, what was that? And I went over and in the corner setting up was a guitar player named Moreno. And he just launched into the first tune, and it was one of those things where like your jaw, you know, drops. I think it's hard not to hear traditional music growing up in Newfoundland. And so, I mean, like I remember my Uncle Ern, you know, he'd always be whistling like a jig or a reel or something. And, but I didn't really get into the music till maybe in my 20s, I think. Just after I got out of university and I moved back to Newfoundland, I really started to embrace that music. And so there you're talking about musicians like Emile Benoit and Rufus Ginchard, who are two of the sort of prominent fiddlers from the tradition here. Because on Raindrops, I was taking music from Django Reinhardt, music from here in Newfoundland, bring them together. But with Raindrops, I wanted to bring in a third style, which comes from the classical tradition. But I think it really is a gut feeling. I mean, as much as people talk about that kind of stuff, for me, it really is true. Like, you can hear it, and it's like it can physically move you too. Like, you just know it. You get that feeling of, I guess it's intuition maybe, but you know when that thing you're trying to get isn't there, and usually it isn't. But that almost makes it easy to know when it is there. So sometimes it takes a bit more time to get it. But I think with Raindrops, I was able to get beyond that stage of just trying to not play it wrong, but actually to try and perform in a way that, you know, where something happens as an ensemble. Party up at the Hughes room in Toronto, And Hugh's room was great because it's like a you know, it kind of feels like a jazz cabaret from back in the 30s. Just a lovely listening room up in Toronto. So we had the album release party there. It was great too because, you know, I brought out a string quartet of some friends up there and had a wonderful night of music. Because it's even changed before, because in the past, I mean, if you didn't have a record label, I mean, you didn't actually have access to things like, you know, mastering studios and pressing plants. So, I mean, you needed a label in the past. Whereas these days, things have changed to the point where you can write and record and even distribute an album without getting out of bed. What I'm learning more from, you know, now being, I guess, 3 albums in, is that it still really comes down to just what you're actually doing, you know, on Earth and not online, or what you do, you know, just live shows and getting out and you know, connecting directly with people who enjoy your music. I also have a vision already for the next album, the 4th album. And it's like Raindrops it's kind of taken that hot club sound, or, you know, Django sound, and putting some extra layers on top of it. And with the next album, I'd like to take the string quartet and make that the core sound, and lay some other layers on top of that. And as well, I'm pretty excited these days because I just, for the first time, just recently performed with the symphony. But all the music in it is like on location, live. It got me thinking that I'd like to try acting.